Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Jay the One-Eye Gamer video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a game that's been slowly catching my interest, and that is Kyoto Xanadu. Now, if you guys don't know what Kyoto Xanadu is, it is the latest game from Falcom, the creators of the Yeast series and the Trail series, of which I am a huge fan of, and it is the next game in the Xanadu franchise. And I believe the last game in the franchise that came out was Tokyo Xanadu, and that came back all the way out during the PlayStation 3 era, so basically around the same time Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 were coming out. But if you do want to play the game, I believe you can play it on any system that has backwards compatibility, so the Switch 2, PlayStation 5, and I believe PC as well. But to jump back to talking about Kyoto Xanadu, the newest game in the franchise, what's interesting about that is it's taking a dual hybrid approach. Now, what I mean by that is you're going to have 2D exploration action like you would have in a Castlevania or a Metroid, and then you're also going to have 3D action segments where you're going to have basically like a standard action game. Think like Devil May Cry, or more act like maybe the Yeast franchise that Falcom is known for making. That's pretty cool. Now, I'm not going to lie, when I first saw the trailer revealed at the Nintendo Direct in February, I was kind of a little lost because I was like, it looks cool, but I didn't know how I'd feel about the 2D action section. But that is before we got the reveal of Castlevania Belmont's Curse, and before I started picking back up the Shantae series, of which I realized I really enjoy 2D platformers, and I do enjoy myself a good 2D action platformer as well. So Kyoto Xanadu checks those boxes off. And what's also interesting is that the more we've been going on and the more we've seen on the game and heard about it, the more I've been interested. So that's why I wanted to make this video. So like I said, it is a 2D, 3D action hybrid, and it is set in Kyoto, so the old capital of Japan. Now, what's interesting about this is I believe the game takes some elements from Persona. Now, the only reason I'm saying that is because that's the first thing I can think of when you think of building like social links or bonds with characters, because your character is a 17-year-old boy going to the school whose job it is to explore Xanadu and figure out the mysteries. And in that time frame, when you're not dungeon crawling, you are going to be up top dealing with the people in Kyoto. And I think what threw people off for that as well is that also seems to be 2D, and you won't be able to explore a fully 3D Kyoto. Now, I think people are upset about that only because in Tokyo Xanadu, you were able to run around a 3D model of, I think, certain areas of Tokyo, and the fact that they're leaning more towards into the 2D style, I think, is what drawing people away. It really didn't draw me away that much. Like I said, I just wasn't hooked when I saw that first trailer, but as more of I've seen of the characters and the story we've heard, the more interested I've been getting. But I got off on a side tangent on that. But back to the whole setting, pretty much I think the gameplay loop is going to be you go into the dungeon, you do some exploration, then you come out of the dungeon and then do some of your social links. So like, go to school, up some of your stats, I think, via that way, build social links, and then possibly go back into the dungeon to continue the story that way. So I think that's the game loop that's going to be in it, because I believe that's pretty much the same game loop for Tokyo Xanadu, so I don't think they're changing it that much. I'm very interested. The characters look really likable. The character designs look amazing in my personal opinion, and hopefully you've been able to see a couple of them in action, because I have been using the trailers as b-roll footage. I think they look really cool, and some of the weapon choices they have are really cool as well. The main character, I believe, is dual wielding katanas, but I believe one's a longer katana and one might be a wakizashi, like in the vein of Musashi Miyamoto. One of the girls is wielding a naginata type, another boy is wielding a battle axe, another girl is wielding a shield and mace, which is a very interesting combination you don't see a lot of in like action games. And then the playable character we see, I think she's using some kind of paper to attack the enemies, I'm not sure. But what's also interesting is we get to see a whole bunch of other characters that I'm hopefully been throwing up throughout the video as well, whose design look really awesome. My personal favorite is, I think, the female lead's older brother. He looks really cool in my opinion, and I believe he's supposed to be wielding a dachi, so pretty much in the same vein as like Rin or Shizuna from the Trail series. And I'm just a sucker for that kind of play style, and I'm kind of hoping that some of these characters you're seeing that I'm showing on here do actually become playable, because they all tend to have their own weapon types. I believe one of them uses a kunai, one uses a bow, one uses a different style sword that looks kind of like a lightsaber, and I think it'd be very awesome if you could get to play as those characters to some extent, because something else we see in the 3D battles, it doesn't seem like you're going to be by yourself. At least in some of the snippets I see, it looks like you have a computer companion with you. Now, I don't know if that's the whole squad that rolls up with you, so like maybe if you have a 5-man squad, the other 4 team up with you, or if it's going to be more like maybe you get 2 or 3 extra people to come with you that you can maybe switch during battle or even exploration into the Xanadu, which is very interesting. Like I said, I haven't played Tokyo Xanadu, so I don't know some of the mechanics that they might take over from that into Kyoto, so it's very interesting on that point. And like I've said, the characters look great, and the animation, in my opinion, looks amazing. I think they're using the same engine they used for the Calvar games and the Sky remakes as well. I think they're leaning more towards the Sky like art style, which I think, in my personal opinion, looks a little better than the Calvert arc. I love the Calvert arc, don't get me wrong, and I love that style, but just seeing like the Sky remakes and how colorful and awesome they look and how anime they look compared to, I think, the base Calvert, that's just me aesthetically. I think that's a better aesthetic choice, but that's neither here nor there. But what's interesting is the fact that Falcom wants to turn this game into a third pillar. So basically, if you guys know anything about about Falcom. Their two biggest franchises as of right now are the Yeast series, which is their primarily straight action RPG series, and then you have the Trails series, which is more of their traditional turn-based RPG, but that's also gotten a hybrid as well, being part action, part turn-based. But those are basically the two franchises they're known for as of right now. But they do have a plethora of older franchises that unfortunately haven't seen the light of day in modern times and haven't caught on really much, as well as the Trails series and Yeast, like I said. Kyoto Xanadu being a fine case. People who've played that game have said they loved it so much, but unfortunately it didn't hit the same commercial success as the Trails series is getting now, or Yeast in general. So what Kondo, the president, wants to do is turn Xanadu into a third pillar for Falcom so it can stand alongside the likes of Yeast and Trails going forward, which I think is bold. And the fact that this is also having a unique identity to itself, I think is a really good thing, because like I said, we have a 3D action RPG from Yeast, and then we have the standard turn-based RPG that we have for Trails. So making this a hybrid of 2D action and 3D action, I think is really unique and help it stand apart from its contemporaries. And another thing that I think is interesting is I believe it also is paying homage to the older Xanadu games, which to my understanding work the same way. You would run around in a 2D environment and then you would go into, I use air quotes, 3D environment to do boss battles or certain big battles. And I think that's really cool and would be very refreshing, and I have hope that they can do this. Like I said, some people were turned off a little bit by the 2D, myself included, but as I've seen more about the game and heard more, I've been very interested, and I can see this being a third pillar. I just hope it gets the support it gets in the West and Japan to help it get there, because honestly, Falcom has become one of my favorite developers so far, because they have just been on fire recently, and I'll go into that later in the video as well. Sorry about that, but to circle on back to Kyoto Xanadu, the whole point of this video, the other thing we know is that it's gotten its official release date, that being July 16th. Now that comes with a caveat, that's only for the Japanese and Asian releases, because we don't have an official release for the West yet. But Falcom has stated that there will be an announcement for the West. They just have to wait for their publishing partner to finalize the date, then we'll get that. So I'm led to believe we're probably not going to get a simultaneous world release like we did with Trails in the Sky First Chapter remake, but don't get it twisted, I would love to be completely wrong about all that, and this game does release day and date with the Japanese and Asian release. And the only reason I'm not feeling super confident about that is because we don't know who the Western publisher is. If it's a big publisher, we could hopefully see a simultaneous world release, but if it's a smaller publisher, I feel like hopefully best case scenario would be a month difference between them, so we could see the game in August. Worst case scenario for me, the game releases sometime like after September, like maybe mid-October, and I feel like that would be insane to wait that long for this new game to come out, considering you want this to be a third pillar of your entire development studio. But that's just me speculating, and honestly, I'm just really hyped about the game, and I'll keep you guys updated when we get the official Western release as well, which again, fingers crossed, I hope is day and date with Japan. If not, like I said, I hope at worst case it's a month later, so sometime in August. And another thing I forgot to talk about is what consoles the game is coming to. It's coming to PC, Switch, Switch 2, and PlayStation 5. So I'm led to believe we're going to get those same options here in the West when that eventually happens. That's all the information we have on Kyoto Xanadu at the moment, and it looks awesome, and hopefully the trailer you've been watching in the background has gotten you interested in the game as well. Like I said, everything I see and hear more about this game just helps to get me a little more excited about it, and hopefully we'll get more gameplay reveals as well, because honestly, I just want to see more on this game and see how the 2D and 3D action environments like meld together. Like, is it a good balance between the two? And just see some of the exploration, some of the fun stuff you can do, and hopefully see some other playable characters besides the 5 we've seen. But I understand that would probably be spoiler territory, but like, there's so many cool looking characters, I just want to play as them, and if I'm feeling this way, I think that means you got some pretty cool character designs, and I can't wait to, you know, get to know them more. And to circle back about something I was talking about in the video before, and that is how Falcom is literally on fire right now in a very good way, and that is because they're just doing a lot of cool reveals and big information that's happened in the last couple weeks. One of the biggest ones that they talked about is how they're bringing back one of their original IPs, Dragon Slayer, which is apparently the progenitor of a bunch of their series. I believe Xanadu is an offshoot of that. I don't know if Yeast is an offshoot of that, but I do know that Trails, which is an offshoot of the Legend of Heroes franchise, which is an offshoot of Dragon Slayer, is very interesting. So the fact that they're bringing back such a milestone game for their company's history is really cool. Now, we don't know anything about it. We don't know if it's going to be like an action RPG, a regular RPG, a strategy RPG, action game. We just don't know. But the fact that they announced it is so cool in my opinion. And then another new snippet we got is that the Trails series is finally starting to come to an end. Now, this came from President Kondo himself. He stated that they plan to reveal the final Trails game at the 50th anniversary of the company, which is in 2031, and then their hope is to release the game the following year in 2032. So that's just crazy to think about, that this series I love so much is coming to an end. He has stated that he wants to finish this before him and his staff retire, which is very commendable, and this has been, I think, a 20+ year journey for the franchise itself to tell this story. And some other cool snippets we got about this as well is that I believe the main scenario for Horizon 2 is finished, so that's good. That means the game should hopefully show up sometime within the next year or two. But they also talked about how they're trying to finalize the final job for the final protagonist of the series, which means we could potentially be getting one more arc, which I think is only going to be 2 games at most, kind of like the Crossbow duology, which I think is really cool. And if that help leads into the final game as well. Man, this video has gone a lot longer than I initially intended, but I'm happy with it because we did talk about Kyoto Xanadu, the whole purpose of this video, and then I did slide in a little stuff here at the end about more Falcom news, Dragon Slayer being announced, and then the finale of Trails happening. And hopefully you guys enjoyed all that because I am a huge Trails fan, like I've said, and Kyoto Xanadu has really caught my interest, and Falcom has been really showing that they should be a developer you're very interested in because, like I've said, they're a small development studio. I think they have less than 100 employees as of right now, and they're just making these really fun games with great storytelling, great music, great characters, and just clearly loving the products that they make. So hopefully this, guys, have got you interested in checking out Falcom games as well, but also hopefully got you interested in keeping more update on Kyoto Xanadu, which I'm definitely going to do. Like I said in the video, I will let you guys know when we get the official Western release for Kyoto Xanadu. But that's going to do it for me, everyone. I want to thank you very much for watching the video if you made it this far. Please, in the comment section, let me know, how do you feel about Kyoto Xanadu? Are you hyped about it? Are you indifferent? Are you looking forward to it? Also, what about the other news? Are you happy that Dragon Slayer is coming back? Have you ever heard of Dragon Slayer? Because I never did. And also, are you a little sad about the end of the Trail series happening basically in about 6 years? But those are just all the things I'd like to hear you guys on about. But either way, I want to thank you again for watching the video. If you made it this far, I want you all to have a great day. I want you all to be safe out there. And remember, let's rock.